Hello everyone and welcome all of you to Unacademy, a platform that has helped thousands of students across the country to crack toughest of examinations with the help of top educators, quality content, and not to forget the great learning experience. Therefore, join us and together let us crack 9th and 10th examination with the access to unlimited live and recorded courses from India's best educators. Well, before I proceed, let me introduce myself. I am Tasneem Ahmed and I have completed my Master's and MPhil in English. I have also been certified in TESOL and I also have trained 1,000 plus students. I also have 8 years of professional teaching experience, therefore be rest assured you are in good hands. Well, today's topic is about future perfect continuous. Before I let you in on future perfect continuous, let me give you a little more information about what you will get at Unacademy. Well, for starters, you have daily life classes where you can chat with your educator, engage in discussions, ask your doubts, and answer polls, all while the class is going on. Number 2, you have live tests and quizzes, where you can evaluate your preparation with our regular mock tests and quizzes and get detailed analysis on your performance. Number 3, you have structured courses. All our courses are structured in line with your exam syllabus to help you best prepare for it. Number 4 is the unlimited access. That is, one subscription gets you the access to all our live and recorded courses to watch from the comfort of your devices anytime you want, any grade you want. All you have to do is buy any one of the subscriptions and get the access to free live classes and prepare with any educator that you prefer, and also get the access to the syllabus of any subject you want, be it mathematics, social science, Hindi, science, and English, of course. You also can talk to us on Telegram application. You gotta download the Telegram application, then type the link in the URL and click on join. Next step is for you to download the Unacademy learning application on any one of your compatible devices. After having done this, you will have to proceed towards buying any one of these subscriptions. Well, Unacademy offers you subscriptions starting from 1 month to 48 months. Well, the good thing about these courses is that these courses come with a maximum amount of discount on these courses. And another advantage is, as you go higher with the duration, each course, the discount on these courses go higher as well. You can take a look at the screen that I have shared with you right now. 6 months course comes with a 33% off discount, and 12 months course comes with a 50% off discount. 24 months course is available on 58%, and as you go higher, you have 60% and 67% of discount on each of these courses as you go higher with the duration. Well, 48 months course is actually advisable for the one in 9th grade, but I would suggest go. If you were to ask my opinion, and in that case, I would suggest go for a 12 months course. Anything lesser than 12 months is only going to be against your, you will have to spend too much of money. Let me tell you how. Well, before I tell you about 6 months, the difference between 6 and 12 months, let me tell you that there is a code which is TA01, upon which when you proceed to pay, if you type this code TA01, you get additional 10% of discount on the existing discount that is offered by Unacademy. That is after this discount. Let us say you type the code, then you get additional 10% of discount. Well, as I told you a little while ago, if you were to ask my opinion, I would suggest, or I would recommend, go in for a 12 months course and not for anything lesser than that. Anything higher than that is only going to be in your advantage, but anything lesser is only going to make you spend too much of unnecessary money. Let me tell you how. Supposing if you were to buy the 6 months course, which is already available on a 33% off discount, and with the code you get a 44% off discount, and for 6 months you pay 9,000 rupees. And after having completed your 6 months, you buy another 6 months, and 9 plus 9 is 18,000 rupees. Well, supposing if you buy a course for 12 months, which is available on 50% of discount, and upon typing the code TA01, you get additional 10%, which means this course is on a discounted rate of 60%, which means as opposed to 15,000 rupees, you only will have to pay 13,500 rupees for 12 months. And comparatively with this amount, obviously 13,500 is far less. Therefore, go ahead and buy the course for 12 months rather than going for a 6 months course. Do not forget to type the code TA01 to avail the benefit of that extra 10% of discount. That is all about Unacademy. Let us now proceed towards today's topic. And today's topic is future perfect continuous. We have almost reached the end of tenses. We started with present tense, and then I took you through past tense, and then I took you through future tense, and today we have come to future perfect continuous. Well, when we started initially, we learned that there are 3 timelines. Number 1, present. Number 2, past. And number 3 is future. Well, we also learned that these 3 timelines are further divided into 4 more. Like, one second. Yeah. For example, simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. These 3 timelines, each one of these timelines are further divided into simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous, meaning you have simple present, you have present continuous, present perfect continuous. Similarly, you have simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. And similarly, you have simple future, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous. And we are done with present tense, past tense, and today we will be completing our future perfect continuous as well. And now let us proceed towards learning today's topic, which is future perfect continuous. Well, what is future perfect continuous? When do we actually use this future perfect continuous? Well, let me read out the explanation or the definition that goes in. When we describe an action in the future perfect continuous tense, which is also referred to as progressive tense, we are in fact projecting ourselves forward in time and looking back at the duration of that activity. The activity will have begun sometime in the past or present or in the future as well, and is expected to continue in the future because we have the word continuous. The word continuous means the action has not ended, but then it will go on. But it means that the action probably would have started in the past, perhaps, or in the present, perhaps, or for that matter, in future as well. Then it would have gone on, and then in future, it is still going on. It hasn't ended. It will not have ended, but then it will be still going on. Let me explain you this better with an example. For example, if I take this example, by next November, we will have been fighting We will have been fighting this pandemic for 2 years. Okay, now let us focus. By next November, well, I am obviously talking about 2021. Now, presently, we are in 2020, right? This is 2020. Let us say this is 2019, and this is present, that is 2020, and this is 2021. And the sentence goes like this. By next November, we will have been fighting this pandemic for 2 years, which means that when we reach to this point, that is, let us say November, now it is 2020 and we are in the month of November, right? So in future, when we reach November next year, that is 2021, there is an action. Right now, we all are actually fighting this pandemic, this deadly pandemic, right? It started in the month of, in 2019, November, which is obviously referring to the past tense. This action, that is, we all together fighting this pandemic, started way back in the past, that is in 2019, isn't it? So started in the past, and what are we doing right now? Even at the moment, presently, also we are still fighting. It is November, and we don't see this ending any sooner. Therefore, we will be, when we go to future reference and when we look forward, when we project ourselves into future, and when we look forward to next year, that is 2021 November, well, we will have been fighting this pandemic for 2 years. It shows the duration. So we are looking back. We are going here, standing here, and then looking back and telling how long we have been fighting this pandemic for. Well, it started here, 1 year, and then here, 2nd year. So the sentence says, by next year, by next November, we will have been fighting this pandemic for 2 years. The definition is, we describe an action in the future perfect continuous. We are projecting ourselves in forward in time, as in projecting ourselves here in future, and then looking back at the duration that we have covered. And obviously we have covered in future, in 2021 November, we will have been fighting this pandemic, and we have no clue whatsoever whether the pandemic is going to end in November 2021 or not, or what happens future. We are clueless. So the action will be still going on if we continue to fight. So this is about our, okay, let me just erase this so that we can discuss about the sentence structure. So this is our future perfect continuous tense. Excuse me. What kind of sentence structure are we going to use? Well, if you remember all the sentence structures that we have discussed in our while we were learning about tenses, we always started the sentence structure with subject. So even this begins with a subject. After having written our subject, we will introduce the word will, and then have, which is going to represent perfect. Will is going to represent future, have is going to represent perfect, and continuous will be represented by been and then ing verb. Supposing if I say I will have been fighting. So there you go. Subject will have been fighting. Now let us move on and discuss about different subject types. Well, we have, let us say, all right, we have two types of subjects. Number one, we have nouns, and then we have pronouns. Well, pronouns are of different types and different persons. Number one is first person. You have first person pronoun, and then you have second person pronoun, and then you have third person pronoun subjects. Well, for first person, we are going to use I in singular position and then we in plural subject. For second person, we have you in both singular and plural subjects. For third person, in singularity, we have he, she, and it. And then in plural, we use they. Well, talking about nouns, nouns talk only about, all right. So when we talk about nouns, all right, I was supposed to use a different color pen here. Sorry about that. All right. Okay. Nouns. Nouns are nothing but all the names that we have. Names of people, names of things, and places. All the names qualify as our subjects, which come under the category of nouns. Now let us move further. And what is a verb? A verb is a name of a okay. What is a verb? A verb is actually an action word. Let me take a different, all right. Verb is an action word that denotes an action in a statement. Well, we have two different types of verbs. Number one being main verbs. Number two being auxiliaries, or we call them as helping verbs. Helping verbs or auxiliaries. Well, what are they? Main verbs are those main verbs. Let me just switch this. Okay. Main verbs are verbs like walk, talk, or run, or speak, or laugh, or drive, drink. Now you can understand these verbs are referred to as main verbs. Helping verbs are those verbs like be verbs. And under the category of be verbs, we have is, are, am, and the past tense of is, are, am, is, was, and were, and the future of this is, will be. Then you have something called as have verbs like have, has, and had. Then you also have something called as do verbs like do, does, and did. You also have other verbs called as modals, which come under the category of auxiliaries or helping verbs. Modals are verbs like can, could, shall, should, or may, or might. Now, all these are referred to as helping verbs, and they help in connecting the subject with the main verbs. That is why they are referred to as helping verbs. Let us move further in discussing about the 5 forms of verbs that we have. Well, for starters, we have something called as, let me change the color of, okay. Supposing if the verb is like this, learn, or let us take another word as verb as scold, or let us take the verb as wear or tear. Now, these verbs are referred to as root verbs, or they are referred to as base forms. Well, when you add the letter S to these verbs, they convert themselves into plus S verbs like this. Scolds, wears, tears. Well, when you add the ing form to these base forms, they convert themselves into ing forms like this. Learning, scolding, wearing, or tearing. Well, the past tense is the next form. Past tense. The past tense of learn is learned. Scold is scolded. Excuse me. And the past tense of wear is wore. And the past tense of tear is tore. We have another type of verb which is called as past participle. And the past participle of learn is learn. The past participle of scold is scolded. And the past participle of wear is worn. And the past participle of tear is torn. Now there is something that you have to focus on. That is, when you actually... One second. Just a moment. I'm trying to use different color pens, but then I'm having a hard time doing that. Yeah, okay. Forget it. Yeah, when I was referring to this when we are actually when we focus on these two verbs, learn and scold, wear and tear. The past tense of learn is learned, and the past participle of learn is also learned. Similarly, the past tense of scold is scolded, and the past participle is also scolded. But when you take a look at this verb, which is wear and tear, the past tense of wear is wore, and the past participle is worn. And the past participle of tear is tore, and the past participle is torn. So this gives us the understanding that these verbs have similar past tense and similar past participle, whereas these verbs have different past tense and different past participle. Therefore, when you have verbs with similar past tense and similar past participle, you call them as regular verbs. And when you have different past participle and past tense, you call them as irregular verbs. These forms are important for you to understand, and we have learned this so many number of times that I'm pretty sure you by now you have actually memorized or understood clearly the five forms that we have. Now let us move on to the next category, which is the examples. And let us, oh man, again, not again. One second, guys. Okay, I'm trying to get the yellow color out, but then this is really giving me I have no idea why this is happening today. Anyway, okay, fine. Probably I gotta stick with the red one the whole time. All right. Subject will have been. Now, let us focus on future perfect continuous. Let us take the examples, which are, now supposing I already told you that we follow subject. We begin the statement with subject, then will have been, and then ing form. Now let us take the example, which is by next month. Next month, these statements are with the subjects I. I will have been working at my new job. At my new job, full stop. By next month, I will have been working at my new job. Let me give you one more example, or the example with other subjects. By next Sunday, you, the subject you will have been, you will have been driving your own car. Let me give you one more example. By next week, we will have been shifting to our new home or new house. New home. With the subject they, let me write the example. By next summer, they will have been practicing their grammar. Full stop. Let us see if I can access this. Yeah, finally succeeded. Okay, so here the subjects are I, you, we, and they. With the subjects I, you, we, and they, we use will, have, been. By next month, I will have been working at my new job. If you analyze the statement over here, by next month, I will have been working. I will have been working at my new job. This is present, and I'm telling you that by next month, what I will actually be doing. Therefore, I will have been working at my new job. At the moment, I have applied for a new job and I'm looking for a new job, and I've been selected as well, and they have asked me to join. So which means that by next month, I will have been working at my new job. Similarly, by next Sunday, you will have been driving your own car, meaning I went out for shopping today and I bought a new car, and they are going to deliver it to me probably on Saturday, or let us say Friday or Sunday morning. And now I'm telling you, at the moment I do not have the car, but I'm telling you that by next Sunday, I'm sorry, not I, you have ordered and you have bought a new car, and it is on the way and it will arrive either on Saturday or Sunday. So you are telling that by next Sunday, you will have been driving your own car. Your own, let us say, new car. By next week, we will have been shifting to our new home. So we were planning to shift, we were planning to move, and now we have done. We are almost done with everything. Moving, shifting is almost done. Now, we will have looking. We were looking for the house and we are done looking for the house, and by next week we will have been shifting to our new home. By next summer, they will have been practicing their grammar. Well, we've been learning grammar from a very long time, almost from the month of September. If I remember well, I started in the month of September. And since September, since the beginning of the September, I have been teaching you grammar, and you all have been learning grammar from then on. And I'm about to finish in a couple of days. Once after having done that, then by next summer, you will be done reading your grammar, and then you will have been practicing your grammar. So rather saying you, I'm telling you they will have been practicing their grammar, referring to third person. Now let us move on and learn a few examples with he, she, and it. He, she, and it. These are third person singular subject. Third person singular subjects. Well, if you remember well, in present tense, we actually use plus S verb, but that isn't the case with future tense either. It's not the case with past tense, nor is it the case with future tense either. Future either. One second, guys. Okay. Too many issues today, not sure why. All right. Yeah. So like I was saying, in future tense, you do not use the plus S version with third person singular subjects. Well, moving on, if I have to give you the examples with the subjects he, let me write it all over here. By this time next year, she, okay, probably let me write this here. She will have been. She will have been walking on her own. Let me write other examples as well before I clarify, before I give you a clarity on the usage. By this time next year, he will have been leading his own team. Full stop. One more example. By next year, it will have been running its own retail shops. Now let us analyze these. By this time next year, we are talking about next year. By this time next year, what will have happened? Well, she will have been walking on her own. Well, let us assume that the word she is a kid. Let us say that it is a kid that we are talking about, and she has just, let us say, just started, or probably she is an infant child, and the parents are excited to see the child walk, and one of the parents says, by this time next year, she will have been walking on her own, which means they are referring that by next year, when she is going to be grown up, a little more grown up. Now probably she is still crawling and trying to turn and all of that. So they are trying to say that by this time next year, she will have been walking on her own without anybody's support. Similarly, by this time next year, he will have been leading his own team. At the moment, he is still a supervisor and waiting for a promotion. So, which means in another couple of months, he might get a promotion. And then by next year, he will have been leading his own team. By next year, it will have been. It is a company over here. we are referring to a company. So it will have been running its own retail shops. Well, probably we are referring to a company which actually deals with wholesale products or sales. Now we are projecting in future, and they have actually started setting up their own retail shops, and by the time they are done, which means next year, by next year, it will have been running its own retail shops. The process has started, and by the time it all ends, meaning by next year, it will have been running its own retail shops. So that is about future perfect continuous. Now let us learn about how to make these negatives. Negatives. Will have, she will, not. We missed out not over here. She will not. I don't know why I keep messing out the word not. Anyway, by next month I will have been working at my new job. How do you convert this into negative? Let us keep this and let us bring this out. To make it negative, we bring in subject, which is I, and then I will, and then we insert the negative word I will not, and then have. In between will and have, you insert the negative word. I will not have been working at my new job, full stop. Similarly, with the subject you bring the subject you and will, and you insert the negative word. You will not have been driving your own car. With the subject we will not insert the negative word. We will not have been shifting to your own home. By next week, we will not have been shifting to our new home. By next summer, they will not have been practicing their grammar. Now over here, previously, now here these statements are affirmative statements, which are by next month I will have been working at my new job. By next Sunday you will have been driving your own car. By next week we will have been shifting to our new home. By next summer they will have been practicing their grammar. All these are affirmative statements, or they are referred to as positive as well, or affirmative statements. They are called as affirmative. Now here, when we insert the negative word, which is not, not, in between will and have, we are actually negating it. And these are negative statements. We are negating the facts. Let us take the examples with the subject she, he, and it. By this time next year, what did I say? You insert the word not in between will have. She will not have been walking on her own, full stop. By this time next year, he, after will, you insert the negative word and then have been leading his own team. By next year, it will not have been running its own retail shop, full stop. So to negate, you bring in a negative word. Now let us move on to framing or formulating yes or no questions. Well, what are yes or no questions? Yes or no questions are those questions which actually demand the answer or the reply as either yes or no. Excuse me. Excuse me. And to formulate yes or no questions, you begin with an auxiliary first. You begin with an auxiliary. After the auxiliary, you bring the subject and then have been, and then comes the ing verb, and you end it with a question mark. Let us see how. Yes or no question. By next month, will I have been? Will I have been? Remember, you are going to bring this word in front. Will I have been working at my new job? Question mark. By next Sunday, will begin with will. Will you have been? Will you have been driving your own car? End it with a question mark. By next week, will we have been shifting to our new home? Similarly, by next summer, will they have been practicing their grammar? Question mark. So to frame yes or no questions which demand the answer as either yes or no, you bring the auxiliary to the front like this. Will comes before the subject. Will comes before the subject. Like this here. And you frame your questions. By next month, will I have been working at my new job? Or you can put this this phrase at the end over here as well. No rule that it can either be brought in the beginning or at the end. Will I have been working at my new job by next month? Or by next month, will I have been working at my new job? Or will you have been driving your own car by next Sunday? Well, by next Sunday, will you have been driving your own car? So you can either put this clause at the beginning or at the end, doesn't matter. As long as you keep it meaningful. With he, she, and it, like I told you, it doesn't take the plus s form. It still remains will. You still take will have been. The same be verb that goes with the subject I, we, you and she. You and they, How do you change these with subject he, she, he, and it? How do we change it into yes or no questions? Like I told you, bring the auxiliary to the front and make it as will she have been? Will she have been walking on her own by next year? Question mark. Similarly, will he have been leading his own team by next year? Question mark. Similarly, will it have been running its own retail shops by next year? Question mark. So we brought the auxiliary to the front and we formulated our yes or no questions. Well, how do you frame negative questions of these? Well, you obviously bring the question verb be auxiliary in front, but you also introduce a negative word that is in between the sum. That is after. Here, let me tell you how. Will, you begin with will and then you bring the subject, and the subject is I, will, I, and then you bring in the negative word which is not will I not, and then you bring have. Will I not have, and then been. Will I not have been, and then ing verb. That is working at my new job, question mark. Similarly, will comes first, will, and the subject over here is you, therefore we are going to bring in you. And what do we do after that? We bring in the negative word, not, and after that, will you not have been driving your own car by next Sunday, question mark. Similarly, with subject we are going to begin, because this is a question, or this is a question that we are forming, hence we begin with an auxiliary. And will we not have been shifting to our new home by next week, question mark. The same goes with will as well. Will they not? Soon after the subject, you bring in the negative word and then have been and then the ing verb. Practicing their grammar by next summer. The same is the case with he, she, and not it as well. They do not take the plus s verb. We will begin with will, and the subject over here is she, and then we bring in the negative word and we bring have been, and the ing verb over here is walking. Therefore, walking on her own by next year, question mark. Next one is, will he not have been leading his own team by next year? Similarly, will it not have been running its own retail shops by next year? So that's how you convert the questions into negative questions, yes or no questions. Now let us proceed towards learning how to frame WH affirmative statements. Well, before I proceed, what are WH words, by the way? WH words are words like what, when, why, who, where, how, whom. All these are your WH words. We begin the question with a WH word, that is WH word. So what word can we bring in over here? Let us say we bring the word where. Where, and after where we will have to bring the auxiliary, that is where will, and the subject. And what is the subject over here? The subject is I. So where will I? After I, you have to bring have been. So where will I have been, and then the ing verb, that is working. Where will I have been working by next month? To make it meaningful, we might have to eliminate a few words or word phrases. By next month. And to answer this question, where will I have been working by next month? Well, by next month, I will have been working at my new job. Now, for the second one, let me bring in the word what. What did I say? We start with a WH word, and then we bring the auxiliary will. What will, and here the subject is you. So what will you have been? Have been. What will you have been? And then next is ing verb. Driving. What will you have been driving by next Sunday. And what is the answer to this question? Well, by next Sunday, you will have been driving your own car. Now let us go to the third one, which is with the subject we. We will take the word, let us say where. Where will we have been shifting? Where will we have been shifting by next week? The answer is by next week we will have been shifting to our new home. With the subject they, let us begin with a question word what. What will they have been? What will have they been practicing? Practicing by next summer. End it with a question mark. Do not forget, we are actually formulating questions. Therefore, they end with a question mark. So the answer is by next summer, they will have been practicing their grammar. Now let us move on and try and analyze with the subjects she, he, and it. Like I told you, no plus s over here. Plus s is not used over here in future tense. But we are still going to follow the same sentence structure, that is, we are going to begin with a WH word. And here we are going to take the word how. How will she, because the subject over here is she, right? How will she, and after the subject we have been. Have been. How will she have been walking by next year? Question mark. With the subject he, let us take the WH word as what. And what will he have been leading by next year? Question mark. He will have been leading his own team. Third one, let us again take the word as what, and what will it have been running by next year? And there goes your question mark. So that is how you change the questions, and these are, let me remind, affirmative. And now let us move on and formulate the negative WH questions. We are still going to follow the same sentence structure, but we are going to introduce a negative word in between. And how do we do that? Let us start with the first one. Where will I? Where will I? We are going to take the WH word, will, and the subject. And subject over here is I. Where will I not? You are going to introduce the word not. Where will I not have been working by next month? And question mark. Where will I not have been working by next month? Let me write it down in case you. By next month? Question mark. Where will I not have been working by next month? Well, by next month I will not have been working at my new job. Next one is with the word WHAT. What will you not have been, what will you not have been driving by next Sunday? I will not have been driving my own car, or you will not have been driving your own car. Next one with we, let us take the word where. Where will we have been shifting? Shifting by next week? Question mark. With the subject they, let us take what. What will, I'm sorry, I was supposed to make it a negative question and I forgot totally, sorry. What will we not have been? What will we not have been shifting by next week? And similarly, what will they not have been practicing by next summer? Question mark. Let us take the examples with the subjects she, he, and it, and let us see how we can make them negative. Well, we follow the same structure. No plus s over here because this is future tense, but we will still follow the same auxiliary. We will still follow the same sentence structure. We will begin with a WH word. Will subject not have been, and then ing verb. And here, let us take the WH word as how, and will is supposed to be introduced. How will, the subject here is she. How will she, and then not have been. Not have been, and the ing verb is walking. Walking. How will she not have been walking by next year? Question mark. Next one is with the question, with the subject, sorry, what. Let us take the word as what will he not have been leading by next year? There you go, your question mark. Similarly, what will it not have been running by next year? Next year. These phrases are pretty common when it comes to future continuous. By next year, by next month, by next summer, by next Monday, by next week. By next. You are going to use a lot of by next when it comes to continuous, future continuous tenses. And that is how you formulate the questions, especially the negative questions. Now let us move on and let us learn the usages of future perfect continuous. Number one, to speak about a specific time in future when the action is in fact going on or will have been going on. How can you justify this explanation? Let me give you the example. By next May, that is May, by next May, I will have been working at this school for 2 years. Let me give you one more example before I explain it further. Let us say by next Sunday, by next Sunday, I will have been teaching tenses for how long? Let us say for 2 weeks. Or I can also say by next week, you, that is you guys, you will have been learning tenses for 2 weeks, right? We started learning tenses 2 weeks ago, and by next Sunday, it is going to be completely 2 weeks, and we are not referring to a completed action, we are referring to a continuity of the action. Even after that, we could prolong the action to speak about a specific time in future. So we are speaking about by next May, by next Sunday, by next week, I will have been working at this school for 2 years. It also shows duration over here. I will have been teaching tenses for 2 weeks. You will have been learning tenses for 2 weeks. So this is the number 1 usage. Now let us proceed towards usage number 2. To describe an action that happens before another action. Let us take the examples. Supposing if I say by the time she arrives, I will have been working on my project. Let me give you a few more examples, a couple of examples. By the time I go, she will have been finishing her homework. Or let us say another example, by the time she comes, okay, this is supposed to be with this, by the time she comes, I will have been, by the time she comes, I will have been receiving the guests. Now let us analyze their usage and let us see if it holds true for the explanation for the usage that we have just spoken. To describe an action that happens before another action, by the time she arrives. So this is going to be one action. By the time this happens, before this action, something else will be happening, which is I will have been working on my project. By the time she arrives, I will have been working on my project. So there are two actions. This is our action number 1, and then this is our action number 2. She arrives is one action. I will have been working on my project, which happens before her arriving, is another action. So two actions are being mentioned over here. So we describe an action that happens before another action. So we are using future perfect continuous to refer to an action that happens before another action. By the time I go. Here, all right, I'll come back to that in a while. By the time I go, this is your action number. By the time I go, which happens later. second action. Before that action, she will have been finishing her homework. This work or this action will be going on when I go. This will be happening in future when this action will happen. Before this action will take place, this action will be going on. So this is our action number 1. Similarly, by the time she comes, action number 2, this will have been happening. That is, I will have been receiving the guests. It is a party and somebody has to receive the guest and we are waiting, and by the time she comes, I will take over and I will have been receiving the guests. Then when she comes over, she can take over and she will start receiving her guests. 2 actions. If you notice over here, 2 actions have been referred and both the actions are future actions, right? Future actions, but we have mentioned this action in simple present. This is in simple present. And the reason we have used simple present over here is because with time reference, we do not use simple future, but instead we use simple present. Keep this in your mind. Do not get confused with time references or with clauses like when or after, which refer to time, or next. All these are time references, and when you have those kind of references, when you're making those kind of references, you do not use simple future, but instead you use simple present. Now let us proceed towards the next important thing that you need to be aware of, and that is about stative verbs. What are stative verbs? We have 2 different types of verbs. Number 1, action verbs, which are also called as dynamic verbs. Action verbs, or another one is stative verb. Well, action verbs are nothing but verbs like run, walk, throw, laugh, jog. Now, if you focus on these verbs, run as in a physical activity, your body is involved over here. Similarly, walk, again, that is a physical activity. Throw, it's a physical action. Laugh, physical action. Jog, all these are your actions where you involve yourself physically. But supposing if you take the verb need, or appear, or believe, or belong, or consider, prefer, remember, understand, love, hate, dislike, doubt, want, and wish. Can you please tell me, does any one of these verbs over here represent any action? Is there any physical action involved over here? Certainly not. These are actually the state verbs because they represent a state of your emotion, state of your mind. Need, as in it is a state. Appear, it is a state, it is an appearance. Believe, it's a state of mind. Similarly, when you say understand or also know for that matter, all these are your state of minds. And when you say love, it is your emotional state. Hate, emotional state. Dislike, emotional state. All these are verbs of perception or cognition, as in understanding, or that are perceived through your senses or emotions. They are referred to as state of being, and that is why we call them as stative verbs. And stative verbs are not used in any of the continuous verbs. No continuous tense, continuous tense, not verbs, continuous tenses. They are not used in continuous tenses. That is, even in present continuous, past continuous, future continuous, or present perfect continuous, or past perfect continuous, or future perfect continuous. We do not use these tenses in ing forms. We can definitely use these verbs though. We can definitely use these verbs in ing forms. But when it comes to stative verbs, we do not use these stative verbs in ing forms. Remember this. Next is contractions. Well, how do you pronounce when you have contractions, or how do you use them? What are contractions? When two words are combined together, we call them as contractions. Well, contractions are first of all not used in your academic writing or in your formal writing. It is only used in your informal situation or in your speaking, either in your speech or in your informal language. It is not supposed to be used in your academic writing or in your formal situations. Well, what are the contractions that we can bring in over here? You have I will. Let us combine I will. When we do that, we get I'll. Well, you will eliminate the W and you will bring in an apostrophe there. Instead of saying I will, you say I'll. I'll have been working at my new job. Similarly, you and then eliminate the W and put the apostrophe and leave the L. Now this has become one word here. These are not two different words like you will, but they are combined together with an introduction of an apostrophe over there. Therefore, you'll have been driving your own car. Rather saying you will, you contract them and you say you'll have been driving your own car. Similarly, we will becomes will have been shifting our new home. Similarly, they will becomes they'll have been practicing their grammar. Yeah, they'll have been practicing their grammar. All you have to do is eliminate the W, bring the word closer and introduce the apostrophe there and combine it. It becomes I'll, you'll, will, and they'll. Now let us talk about the contraction which is done with will and not. Will not gets combined and becomes won't. Becomes won't. I won't have been working at my new job. Similarly, you will not becomes you won't have been driving your own car. Or we won't have been shifting to our new home. Similarly, they won't have been practicing their grammar. So these are contractions. Let us proceed towards the final thing, that is perfect continuous tenses. We have three different tenses when it comes to perfect continuous tenses. Number one, we have present perfect continuous. Number two, we have past perfect continuous. Number three, we have future perfect continuous. We have these three tenses in perfect continuation. And how are they different from each other? Well, let us begin with sentence structures first. We always begin it with a subject. We have subject. Soon after the subject, we will have either has or have. Remember, I told you that in present tense, we also use plus S with third person singular subject. That is he, she, and it. Subject, has or have, and then been, and then the ing main verb, the ing main verb. This is the sentence structure that you use in present perfect continuous. In past, you obviously begin with a subject. The past tense of has or have is had, and you use been, had been, and obviously you use ing main verb. Now in future perfect continuous, of course, we begin with a subject. Soon after the subject, we are going to use will, and then we are going to bring in have, and then been, and then the ing main verb. Subject will have been an ing verb. Let us take an example. And the example here would be, I have been working. Or you can also say, she has been working. Here in simple past perfect continuous, you could convert that into, I had been working, and in future, I will have been working. There you go. Have or has been gets converted into had been, and had been gets converted into will have been in future perfect continuous. Well, remember, these are the continuation actions. All the three timelines are connected over here. Present also is connected with past and also future. Past also is connected with past, present, and future. Future also is connected with past, present, and obviously future. So this is all about the perfect continuous tenses and future perfect continuous. Well, thank you for watching, and do leave your comments below and let me know if you were able to follow and if this was helpful, of course. And do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And please do not forget to use the code TA01. TA01 to avail that extra 10% of discount on your subscriptions. Hit the bell icon for notifications and do join our Telegram group for the latest updates on our upcoming videos. Well, until I come up with another video, have a good day. Bye-bye.